Hi, I'm Praveen Gautam. I help entrepreneurs and enterprises to build a digital brand and monetize it. This program is all about helping entrepreneurs to build their digital brand and then monetize it. So let's go a little bit deeper here. And if you're watching this from any of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, any of the channels, if you're new, just would love to know more and just type new. And if you're existing viewers and just watching this, just sit back, relax. That's for about 20 minutes. And and thanks for tuning in again. So we're talking about today is a culture and keeping your virtual team motivated. And today I've been very lucky to have Tristan White. A little bit about Tristan. Tristan is the founder and CEO of PhysioCo, named one of Australia's best places to work for 11 consecutive years. He's the author of the book titled Culture is Everything, Developed Systems, where he now write, podcast, and teach about culture. G'day, Tristan. Great to have you today.
Pravin, I'm rapt to be here with you, mate. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to a good chat.
Cheers. So, Tristan, I'm talking to you as a team maker and a thought leader, and I want to know what is that you believe culture will look like in future?
Pravin, it's such a really important question that people ask often, and look, the answer is that I don't believe there will be a new normal. There'll be continual events and things that we need to adjust to. And yeah, the coronavirus pandemic that we're working through now is really difficult, and it's resetting a lot of things. But I think it's really speeding up the future of what teams will look like and team culture will look like. And so I think it will be the teams that will thrive and will really succeed in the future will be teams that are connected in a human, empathetic way. They've got a rhythm of connection which enables them to blend their work and life, because there'll be more and more hybrid working from home, even when we can get back to offices. And I think that teams that have really got a system and a structure, the way they connect, the way they attract new team members on board, and really have a rhythm of communication and connection are the ones that will really thrive in the next 5 to 10 years as we move forward into a rapidly changing, even more rapidly changing world, I reckon, Pravin.
That's a great insight you mentioned, because obviously we are not dealing with just the one state or one country, isn't it? Especially during these uncertain times, because it's a global village or a global team. So isn't it a bit of challenging as well? I mean, when you look on a global perspective, because now you are obviously not just the full-time staff. You're talking about freelancers. You're talking about the different teams in different countries. So what's your perspective on that, Tristan?
Look, it's both. It's a challenge. There's no question, Pravin. Don't get me wrong. It's a real challenge having people in so many different places and being somewhat barriers to communication. But by the same token, to use your words there, this global village that we're in, Pravin, I'm so fortunate to be able to work from home where I am right now, and yet I'm able to use technology to communicate with people not only in my house but in my team that's spread around Australia. And also, like even this morning, Pravin, I've been fortunate enough to be interviewing and being interviewed on podcasts and now on a live stream with you from the comfort and sort of safety and stability of my own home. And so I think, Pravin, yeah, it's a big challenge. And especially for organizations and corporate organizations who are learning to adjust and may not be used to the remote working that some of us have been doing for longer. But I think if we can reframe the challenge into an opportunity as to how can we really make this work for us to build a strong team that can sustain to the future, I think that's the right way to adjust to this situation, Pravin.
Absolutely, we all are in this together, isn't it? But obvious, the thing is the cultures. I mean, what we have in the past is post-COVID, and now obviously in these uncertain times and pre-COVID. Certainly, do you think that it would be changing around? I mean, almost culture 2.0. What do you think?
Pravin, I think that it will evolve. There's no question it will evolve. It will change. We've spent more time in other people's houses and in personal lives, if you will, in some ways, while 19 pandemic and work from home situation. But Pravin, I think something that's really, really important. I can't communicate this more clearly to everyone listening. is that culture is not an airy-fairy, intangible concept. A culture is something that can be systemized, series of steps and checklists and repeatable systems that can really tailor to a team and organization. And Prabin, that's the beauty of a system, is that if you have a repeatable system that can be adjusted, and then you've got leaders who are willing to lean in and to engage with the system and with their team members in a really human way, then the beauty is, Prabin, that we can adjust and fine tune into the culture 2.0 will be a version of culture 1.0, Pravin, that we just have to be willing to know which bits to adjust and which bits to hang on to, like our core purpose and core values are critical behavioral concepts to keep within a team, but how we communicate and the platforms and technology we use is likely to be changing pretty quickly.
You bet, Tristan. And I love one of the saying from Dale Carnegie is obviously, culture is not just a process, or as you just mentioned, it's not a fairy tale things. It's the things we do in every day. Pretty much, isn't it? So maybe the methods or the process might be changed, but the company's values, the history, who we are, and what we believe on, how do we, what's the vision look like, what's the reward, or what's the punish, or whatever the situations we are. It's the matter of that. The basic things, the foundation is pretty same, isn't it? Pretty much.
Look, it is, Pravin, and this concept of culture is something that I've been very focused on for a long while, Pravin. I believe the world needs more great places to work, and I believe that we need to find a better way to work as a foundation of a strong culture, and to ultimately create more great places to work. But this idea of a strong team culture, it's not only for the good times, for the perks and rewards and the parties and the recognition and all the stuff that sometimes people only think about when they think about this concept of culture. The culture that I believe is the strongest and most sustainable is one that you invest in for the inevitable tough times that we go through in business and in life. And Prabin, a strong team culture with some foundations of a compelling core purpose, set of core values, a repeatable system of rhythm, and a human connection of showing more love to your team members and teammates and clients will sustain us through these difficult times. And so it's never too late to invest in culture, but the teams that are really invested in culture and have this repeatable system that's a foundation of who they are, that's adjusting right now, are the ones that are really thriving as much as possible as we work through this challenging time.
That's very very true, man. That's very true. Now, also on that note, some of the viewers who are just tuning in as well, they might, because obviously you have this award from last 11 plus year consecutive years, and people might be curious to know what's the recipe behind it, what's the secret recipe, what you are doing, how you are maintaining in these times of uncertainties in your business, Tristan. If that's okay, a little bit heads up, please.
Of course, Prabin. Of course. So just for some context, Prabin, the Physio Co is a healthcare business that exists to help seniors stay mobile, safe, and happy. We've been around for a long time, 16 years. We've been around for, and 11 times as one of Australia's 50 best places to work, which is something we're really proud of. But Prabin, if I'm to get to the secret recipe, it is there are two parts to it. One is this repeatable 19-step system that I believe is really required to build a great place to work. And Prabin, for people who, if there's anyone interested in a checklist to be able to download and audit their culture, they're happy to share that with them, because I believe the 19 steps is the critical recipe, if you will. However, Prabin, it's not enough. The recipe of the system is not enough. You need to have leaders who are willing to lean in, be curious, be vulnerable, be brave, and to live one of the core values of our organization, and it would be likely to be a core value of many organizations, and that's find a better way. How do we adjust? How do we improve? How do we fine tune? How do we check what's working, what's not working, and continuously evolve the system and improve it as we go? Because Prabin, a system is only as good as the way it's executed, and a system is only as good as the way it is applied to the environment, to the team. And so the answer is a repeatable system with some leaders or leaders who are willing to evolve and fine tune as we go.
Very true, Tristan. Obviously, system and process is just the things, but it is the leader. I think in our conversation, private chat, we talk about leaders who drive that for the cultural change, and it is very important. Then on that note, how would you say? Obviously, what do you think? I mean, what are the top three advices to the leaders who are watching this right now on designing the virtual workplace cultures? Because everything now is virtual. So, what's your insights on that, Tristan?
Mm. Prabin, I'd really encourage all leaders to make sure that they are, and I've said it a couple of times already, but a rhythm of communication with team members is so vitally important. I'm talking about a rhythm of communication in a one-to-many sense, and that is a regular. I'll really encourage a daily huddle, a short, sharp daily huddle where people can come together virtually. They can have a short agenda. It's simply something like what's going on, where each team member does share their priorities, where he is stuck, where we can share a challenge or a roadblock, and or a good news story where we can make sure we're identifying the wins and celebrating people, ideally for winning core values. So Pravin, the answer is one is a rhythm of connection involving a daily huddle. The second is I'd really encourage team leaders and managers and bosses to do their very best to understand where their organization is headed, knowing full well we might need to bring that timeline in shorter at the moment, but make sure we're communicating towards the future. We can't predict the future, but we can paint a picture as to where we're headed and do our very best to align people to where we're headed. There's uncertainty creates even more uncertainty. So doing your very best to not make promises you can't keep, but create some certainty towards the future would be the second one. And the third one, Prabin, and maybe I should have said this first because it probably comes at the top of the list, and that is lead yourself first. And that is leaders need to make sure they're taking care of themselves, they're as organized as they can be, they're getting some sleep, they're getting some exercise, they've got their own personal rituals and rhythms in place, because in my experience, it's impossible to lead a team and create a strong culture if you don't have your own personal rhythms and, dare I say it, personal culture aligned to then be able to communicate and clearly lead and support other team members. So they're my best tips right now, Pravin.
Great. That's awesome, Tristan. And those viewers who are watching this right now, I'm with Tristan White. We're talking about culture. Culture is everything. And he just shared about the three tips about this. And what I love, Tristan, is about you all walk the talk, and I see you. I think that's where a couple of months ago I saw your Tristan live with Tristan or Time Out daily huddles, and it was so cool, really, because how you are sharing with the team and being open culture, being that transparent, is that what the leader or the leaders or corporate leaders or business enterprise, they have to do it. Yeah, that's very cool. Now then, the other part is then how do you suggest business leaders can maximize? Obviously now, as some of the leaders, they may not be very familiar with the digital platforms. When you talk about digital, they may not be familiar with the digital platform. What are some simple tools what they can able to share or grow their business and keep the team closer?
Pravin, I'm going to give a really, what may seem like a really simple or basic concept for virtual working right now, but most teams are using Zoom. Maybe some teams are using something different like WebEx or Microsoft Teams or the like, whatever the virtual video technology platform you're using in your team and in your organization. I encourage people to get really, really good at it. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about being able to log in and know how to use the chat window. I'm talking about setting up so you can look straight down the camera like I'm doing with you right now, Pravin, and you can have this interactive conversation where it's as real as possible. I've got a camera, a webcam above my screen, which is at eye level. I've got a light above me so that people can see my face. I'm connected here, and I'm not doing all sorts of other stuff while I'm having a conversation with you, Pravin. I really am looking down the lens of the camera and doing my very best to connect with you as if we were here in person. And so my suggestion is about communication, and it's about mastering the basics of becoming the best communicator you can be in a virtual environment, as opposed to trying to get all fancy with all sorts of different technologies and platforms. People get lost. And so I think we need to stick to the basics of clear communication, eye contact as much as we can, and really not forgetting to smile, to engage, have a drink with you, but don't go eating too much of your lunch while you're on a video call with other team members. I think we need to be respectful in the way we go about using this sort of technology. So that's the best tip I've got for you right now, Pravin.
Correct, mate. It's always an evergreen, can't go wrong. Obviously, people, especially business leaders, they buy all these tools and gadgets and process. But sometimes being in the moment, being present is so important. And I think you nail it, because it's all about that being present, no matter what sort of the tools you're using or conferencing softwares you are using. It's so important. Now, what is your thought on that note? What is your thought about consistency? Obviously, I mean, tell us a little bit about, Tristan, your live huddle. So if that's okay, Tristan.
Sorry, ask that question one more time, Pravin. I think I missed it, mate.
Would you mind tell a little bit about, because we're talking about consistency, how important the consistency is required when you have being business leaders, or when you're a leader, whether that's a corporate leader, or what is that required consistency, and a little bit on the note about even about your live daily huddles with Tristan White. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, first things first, Pravin, and that is that I learned this a long time ago, and I don't always live it, and I don't get it right all the time. And sometimes I think in life and business, we have these sweet spots where we really nail things, and then we have these tough times where we sort of feel disorganized and overwhelmed. And I have those. I ride that roller coaster like others do. But Pravin, I'd encourage leaders to be structured with their time and using their calendar in a way that says around about, if you're a leader of a team, you've got a team that's reporting to you and it's your job to support them, I'd really encourage you to have about 50% of your time in your calendar structured and set to be having your meetings, working on projects, communicating with other team members, and making sure that you do have a very clear plan and rhythm to the way that your days and week operate, and ideally a repeating cycle of Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock executive team meeting, Thursday, 10:30, one-to-one meeting with whoever it may be, a rhythm like that. But also, Pravin, I'd encourage leaders to have up to 50% of their calendar available to be able to respond to engage with, to support, and to make sure they've got the time available to actually do the coaching and the supporting and the responding and the in the moment communication with their teams. Because if we're too packed, then we just can't do that in the moment coaching and support. By the same token, if we're too reactive and we're wide open and we just respond to the next email that comes into our inbox or next call that pops up, then we're probably not making the progress on the important stuff that we need to do. So that's the first thing, Pravin. And secondly, about the timeout live daily huddle is, for the last few months, Pravin, I've been showing up at 1:03 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter to really create it's accountability for me. It's also creating a safe online space for business leaders to show up, to have a slight check out from their team, a check-in with themselves and a check-in with me, while I do my very best to support them, to encourage them. I ask them, what are they working on? Where are they stuck? And we will share a good news story. It goes for about 12 minutes. And then by 1:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, I'm out of there. I say, see you later. And we get back to getting stuck into our days and into our lives. But that rhythm is something that helps me, and it's a safe place for leaders who might be working from home and needing just a little bit of a recharge in the middle of the day, Pravin. So that's what that's all about.
Thank you, Tristan. That's great. You say that obviously 50% of supporting, helping the team, but other 50% is obviously making sure that you are available. So your diary have got a couple of slots, because we don't want to, fully booked out, and that's where, especially a lot of the sort of mouse trap that the leaders go through, because they are so busy and doing the things, or managing the team. Sometimes there's no schedule, so it is important to lock that in. Very, very important. So if you're watching this right now, feel free to just go to Tristan White. Just type Tristan White, isn't it, Tristan, in the Google, and how they can know more about you, Tristan.
Look, if they're video watchers and live stream watchers, then join me at Timeout Live Daily Huddle. If you Google Timeout Live Daily Huddle with Tristan White, or simply Timeout Tristan White, you will find my daily huddle on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. But if you'd like to download a one-page checklist of the 19 steps that I believe are needed to build a great place to work, then head over to tristanwhite.com.au. and you can download a checklist from there to audit your culture.
Right. Thank you, Tristan. So it's a tristanwhite.com.au, and you can see very, very easily. You just download the book, and I'm sure you would enjoy. So anything, obviously we are conscious with the time. Anything you want to share before we close off for today, Tristan?
Look, Pravin, I'd just encourage people to culture is something that takes a period of time to build. But if we make culture a really high priority, then I think we can make work a meaningful part of our lives that we can enjoy and not need to have a break or a holiday or a challenge. We need to manage our energy, but we need to, by having a strong team culture with a connected group of people, work doesn't have to be as energy draining and as difficult as what it may be without a culture by design. So I'd encourage people to invest in culture. Therefore, they can enjoy their work and do some productive work. The best work of their lives is what I'd encourage, Pravin.
Totally. Thank you, Tristan. Yes, it's not about the concept and capability. It's all about focusing on the culture. So you have a team, you have, all the mates to help you, to assist you on the journey. That's a great point, Tristan. Well, once again, thank you, mate. It's an honor to have you in the show. And I hope the listeners who are watching this right now, get a value out of it. And obviously, this is a live streaming, the digital perspective every Thursday, 1 p.m. But this is very exclusive. So and obviously Tristan does the same time. So we work out on the time which suits both of us. Thank you once again for watching this. Stay well and bye.